Want to see where I make stuff? Hello, I'm Paula Jean and welcome back to my channel. I thought I would take advantage of having a lovely camera assistant at my disposal today. His name is Neil and he's backlit, but I love him very much. So I thought I would use him to help you come on a tour of my sewing space with me. My sewing space is mostly dedicated to sewing, but it is our second bedroom, and so it is actually a multi-purpose space. It serves as a guest room. The closet is a sound booth for me to do my voiceover work, and it's also a room that we come in to do other kinds of work. So I'm gonna show you how I mostly use it for sewing, but I'll also show you the things that transform to make it not so much of a sewing room. So starting out on this wall, this is where most of the sewing action happens. And even though this is the darkest part of the room, if you can call it dark, we have a huge bank of windows that floods this place with light. Sometimes too much light, as you might have seen in some of my videos. But this is actually the only wall that has any electricity on it. So this is where all of the electrical things happen. So starting on this side of the room, I'm gonna begin by showing you my chair. A good chair to sew and do anything on really is so important. I was lucky enough to have this given to me by a friend who was replacing their office chair. And I don't know the brand name. I have no idea how much it costs. Like I said, they gave it to me, but it is amazing. It's one of those really cool office chairs. It's got a mesh back. It kind of relaxes with you a little bit. I've covered the seat with a lap quilt that my mom made me for my birthday with bees all over it because I love bees. And then I've got my little leopard pillow for additional back support. But this has been a big game changer and definitely something that I wish for you in your sewing room is a good chair. So let's move on to the machines that are covered with machine covers that I made using the free closet core pattern. These are so helpful for keeping dust out of the machine, especially if you live in a hot and dry climate such as Southern California, like I do. So first one is my Janome HD 3000. This is a heavy duty machine. It is my workhorse. I do everything from lingerie to upholstery on this. It is a really great machine. And then my serger is the Juki MO644D. I've had this for many, many years. It has never let me down. I highly recommend this machine as well. These are sitting on an old IKEA table that is basically sawdust underneath. Eventually this will need to be replaced, but it does just fine for now. And it's also got this little topper on it. I don't even know, I've had this thing forever, so I don't know if they even make this anymore, but this is where I store a lot of my go-to items that I use. So for a lot of my thread, I keep in this clear acrylic box. This is actually a vegetable keeper that I got on sale at Target, but I love it because I can see what threads I have, what colors I have, how much of each one I have, and I get most of my thread from Wawak, so that's why they kind of all look the same like this, and it's great and stackable. And then I have my bobbin cases. I have used almost every different type of bobbin storage. This has been the best I have found so far. I will leave links to anything that I can leave links to down below, but these are great because they have this, they are a closed box. B, they have this rubberized case inside and they don't fall out. So these are amazing. They come in a set of two. I use one for my darker threads, one for my lighter threads, and very happy with those. I also have a reproduction of a lunchbox that I used to have in grade school that houses my embroidery and beads and things like that. It's just nice to have a little piece of nostalgia and some superhero energy in the sewing room. These are where I keep my all of my cutting implements, my scissors, snips, rotary cutters, and all of that. And then I have other implements down here, like sewing feet and stuff like that. This is a stackable storage unit that I keep, well, I have them labeled here, like needles, marking tools, bias tape makers, some snaps and buttons. These all come off, so if I have one thing that I'm using, I can take it off and take it anywhere in the room with me. This is the one that I use most often with all of my marking tools, some pattern weights, some little tools for my machines and stuff like that. Oops. That usually snaps like that. This section looks like a hot mess, and it kind of is, but I know where everything is. So these are like marking pens and things like that, and various things, and obviously some sewing inspiration. Over on the side here, I have some of my other threads like upholstery and buttonhole and other threads so I don't get them mixed up with the other ones, and some other little sewing implements. And then over on the other side, I have one of my favorite upgrades, and it is a light. This light is made by a company called Loom Cube, and this has been such a game changer. It attaches to the table like a drafting light. It's got so many articulation points that are really strong but also really smooth, and you can also charge things on it. It's got charging ports, USB-C, regular USB, got those on the back, and then the light itself, you can actually change the dimness and brightness, and when you can press a button, and you can also change the warmth of it. But the really nice thing is that it is a really bright light, but it doesn't blind you. So it's got this diffusion on it that's really lovely, and so I can come down and I can even get into the nitty-gritty of my serger. I also use this when I move my machines out of the way and I come and do Zoom calls in here, because it's just a nice light for that. And at nighttime, I just point it at the wall and it makes a really lovely, lovely cast on the wall as well. Moving down below the table, I have this houses all of my serger threads, all of my interfacing, some bits and bobs here, and this box here houses all of my bra making materials and other things. This is my old backup machine. It had broke at one point. I fixed it to the point where it is good for short periods of time. Basically, I keep it for making buttonholes because it makes great buttonholes. This is another awesome upgrade. This is a recycling bin that is from IKEA. This is the shorter one. It also comes in a higher height, but it's great because I can throw some stuff, store some stuff on top of there, but you just lift this and in go your scrap fabrics. So that's something I have really been enjoying. Keeps those nice and neat and contained. And then over on this side of this little topper here, I just put one of those like command strip hooks, and that's where I keep all of my straight edges, measuring things, stuff like that. Moving over to the shelves, this is where I keep things like pattern envelopes, my sewing books, my boning, some extra threads also in an acrylic box because I do like to see them. And then in these white containers, I have elastic, fabric samples, other little implements that are just like messy and never easy to organize. And then up at the top, I have just shoe boxes of like scraps and like stretch mesh, zippers and Velcro. And I just used 3x5 cards that I labeled and stuck them inside there. So that's how those are all stored. And then coming down here, this is another little quilting piece of art that my mom made me, along with some reminders about the important things in life. And we also have the printer where all of the PDF patterns are printed. And then behind this filing cabinet, which is just our house filing stuff, is where I keep some of my large cutting mats. So those just tuck behind there. And now this, you have probably seen this behind me in some of my videos, this giant bookshelf, which actually inspired redoing the entire room. This bookshelf used to be bright, shiny red, and I painted it white. And behind this, you can see how I painted it white. And this basically stores all of my fabric. Within here, I have these very inexpensive fabric boxes. They're kind of jammed in there, and I won't take it all the way off. But these are great. I got these again at IKEA, and they just kind of help to have another layer of organization so all of the fabric isn't falling on top of one another. And then down here I have some scraps. I keep all of my ironing and all of my pressing tools down here, some other art supplies, some wrapping paper, some pattern paper, and all of that. So this is a really great piece of storage. And then this curtain that I made for it is basically just to keep all the light that comes flooding in to the room, keeps all of my fabrics protected from that. And this was the CLAVA quilt by Miss Make, and I just use kind of the center panel to put together. You might have seen this as a reel on Instagram, or I think I have it as a short on my YouTube channel as well. So that's been great. And then this corner is just, this bookshelf is eventually going to get some sort of a treatment, but it just houses all of my other art supplies, games, books, plays, writing stuff, and yeah, just a bookshelf. And then this little thing, which also got repainted, houses our paper and houses some of my smaller sound equipment and things like that. And then this side of the room is our couch that converts into a bed. And then I also have these two glass top side tables. Those used to be red. I spray painted them copper and really like those in here. This is honestly how at least one and often both of them look, is with a stack of patterns that I either need to cut out or put together, or projects that I'm working on sometime in the near future. And then in this corner, we have, of course, Betty, who you have seen in several of my videos. This is a Uniquely You dress form, which is a foam dress form that you can kind of more or less conform to your body. She is more or less my measurements, but not quite my shape, but she's still really, really helpful in terms of working out like initial pattern adjustments. The cover that I made is actually, I used a bodice block that does fit my body perfectly, but she kind of pushed it out a little bit. So her, not everything that fits me fits her, but everything that fits her will definitely fit on me with a few little tweaks. And she also is a great model for all of my measuring tapes. So she kind of floats around the room with me. And then this is the Kallax shelf. And if you don't have one of these in your house, you probably don't live on planet Earth. It is also from IKEA. And this is where I keep all of my patterns. At the bottom, I went ahead and put, it's just sitting on a plywood layer that I attach casters to. I didn't want to attach the casters directly to the shelf in case I want to use it in another way in the future, but it really makes it easy to pull out. And I decided to also use some command strips and a $7 mirror from Target and put a full-length mirror on the other side of this. You've probably seen this in a couple of my videos as well. So this is also really great, not just for sewing, but also if we happen to have a guest or something like that. And then it just goes all the way, and behind there I have some other art supplies and stuff, but this just does a great job of hiding all of that. This is also something where if we do have a guest that's staying for a few days and they need some extra storage, I can just pull these out and put them in the closet and give them some extra storage space. So that is super handy. And then the last piece of the puzzle is my cutting table. That probably is making a horrible sound, but it's just, it does have wheels and it moves just fine, but I think I have some of the wheels locked and I'm just sliding it across the floor. This has been a game changer. So you can bring up one or both sides of the table, and they just, the legs fold out like this. Under here is a shelf. This is where I keep all my pattern weights and some of my pins. And then there are these two drawers on either side that you can put whatever you want in. This has made such a difference in my back and neck health. It is an adjustable table. You can adjust the height. I have it on the, not the highest height, but the kind of second highest height. And I find that is kind of the best positioning for me. I think this is just above counter height. I think it might be 37 or 38 inches instead of 36. But having a surface that you can stand at and have a big area to cut on makes just all the difference in the world. I've mentioned to you guys before that I deal with a chronic pain condition, and this is just so helpful. It's so much better than leaning over a dining room table or getting down on your hands and knees on the floor. I highly recommend this. This will be one of the things that I leave a link to. Like I said, those most of my cutting can be taken care of by the mats that I showed you that I put behind the filing cabinet. I also have a big flat mat that is the full dimensions of this. Like if I put the table up fully, I believe it's 59 or 60 inches by 36 inches. So this would be what I use for cutting out like pants and dresses and jumpsuits. Most everything else I can just use half of the table. And then of course, like it folds down. So again, if we're using this room for something else or we have a guest, you know, they can put things on here if you want, and then it just kind of slides out of the way and leaves this open space. So that is basically the tour of my room, and I'm going to do a little time-lapse video of how I kind of move things around and pull out this bed and make it more comfortable for a guest who's staying here. And yeah, so maybe I'll show you that now. And welcome to your room. So obviously this isn't some like swanky downtown hotel, but it is comfortable for a couple of nights. It's comfortable for us when we have to move into here because it's cooler than our bedroom when it gets into the triple digits, because we live in a 1929 building that has no air conditioning. So I've made up the bed. I've used one of the side tables as a little night table. The other one is in the closet along with Betty and some of my sewing things. My cutting table folded down, just pushed up against my fabric shelf. And then I've just put a couple of towels here. But this is also just a surface that anybody could put anything on. And then moving around to the desk space. So I have covered my machines, put my main machine back here. The other one is under here on top of that awesome recycling / fabric scrap bin. And I just want to show you again this light because I love it so much. So I've just got this on a fairly dim and warm setting, but you can see how you can pull it down, turn it towards you. So if I'm doing like a Zoom or a FaceTime call, I can put it toward me, or I can use it as a task light. I just really love this thing. It's so robust and resilient. And sorry, I just turned it off there. And then another thing I wanted to mention is that this has turned out to be so handy, not just for this situation with a computer, but for my sewing purposes as well. Having a power bar on the table is so great for me. When I have my big ironing board out, which I don't use a lot, but I do use it for fusing big pieces of interfacing and ironing my fabric. But having that there so that I don't have to have an extension cord on my iron and get on my knees and look for an outlet is so handy. So yeah, so this is the sewing room done up as a guest room or sleeping room or other work room. I hope that I have inspired you to maybe look at some spaces in your house if you want a creative space but you don't think you have one. Maybe you've gotten some ideas here that how you can transform and make your own little space. So with that, I will leave you, and I can't help but feel very cozy and warm and a little bit sleepy. Maybe it's nighttime, so maybe I'll just like have a little lie down, and I will bid you good night and wish you sweet dreams and a beautiful week. See you next time.